I would like to invite the president of CAPE to give us a report. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kathleen. I would like to thank Kathleen for having accepted to accept the delegation of this meeting. It was a very good idea because I've been back for 3 days only. So I'm a little bit. I'm very happy that Kathleen has accepted our offer to facilitate this annual general meeting. Yes, the year has been full of emotion, but I would like to say that, and of course there's been consequences for my personal life, for my professional life, but I think that in the end what's the most important, that is despite all obstacles, we have put forward our agenda. We have not stopped our representation. We have even increased our representation. We have allowed as much resources. We have the same number of labor relations officers with locals that that are more able to help people, and I can say that I think that's a very great part of my chairmanship, is that I think that locals have to have more and more powers. We don't want to give locals the responsibilities of labor relations officers, but if we are able to offer support, immediate support to members who are in a dear situation in the workplace, and if these people know that somebody like Shelley or Greg are in the workplace, they can ask their help.
So I think it's very important to remember that despite everything that's happened, we've continued to do our work. We've continued to build on the program that I was elected on. So I think I've really served my sentence here. I've only been back for 3 days now, and I've worked very, very hard to make this AGM a success. I started a discussion on the interpretation with the Treasury Board. I've started discussions with the Minister, the Department of Justice. I've started discussions with the Bureau of Translation. I've also talked to several local leaders who are organizing information sessions at ESBC, Finance, Treasury Board as well, Natural Resources Canada, AgCan as well. So I've done all that in 3 days, basically.
That despite some major obstacles, the platform for which you elected me, not every single one of you, but the majority of CAPE members who've casted their vote, continue to be implemented. As members, you elected me because you understood that CAPE needed to change to better respond to the challenges of our time. In the printed copy of the President's reports that you have in your hands, hopefully, or in your package, and which is also available online, I repeated the 4 objectives that were adopted by the National Executive in 2015. They served as our compass for our actions over the last year. For starters, we aim to keep members informed. To that end, we focused on our communications and made it visually more appealing. And yes, there's still lots of work to be done on the website. And it's not because we don't know about it. It's just because, well, we've been slightly distracted. Your comments have been generally, I take all of the members' comments, and including Katrina's, are always extremely useful. Our task, so when it comes to communications, it's about listening to members' needs, right? So I've really multiplied the number of opportunities to meet with you, the members, this year, so that I can hear your issues and priorities straight from the horse's mouth. I've been at your AGMs and other special events. I've participated in events organized jointly with other unions or other grassroots organizations. I've traveled, I think for the first time, for a president to Yellowknife and Calgary, among other cities, to meet with members in the regions. I mention these two cities in particular because, I do not think that a president has ever gone there before. And during each of the meetings where I met with members, I spoke with them, and they were pretty thrilled to meet with someone who was frank and open. That's how people tend to characterize me. And the fact that I cared about their particular issues, and that I actually was listening to what their concerns were. So I had people talking in the prairies about Workplace 2.0. I had people out west talking about DRAP at INAC. I had people in the north, of course, feeling very isolated. And of course, Phoenix has been on everybody's minds. So our communications also goes through activities that are organized by our different committees. And I will give part of my president's report will actually ask members and actually presidents of some of the committees to talk to you about their activities. Le deuxième objectif.
Now, the second objective of the NEC was to take part in social justice and the union movement. We worked closely with other bargaining agents to avoid the Treasury Board forcing compromises from one of the unions. This Solidarity Pact has allowed us really to push back on the offers of the government on short-term disability and maternity leave, for example. There are other levels of contribution in the workplace, be it with PIPs or with PSAC, but also with the financial officers, etc. We often organize joint events with the PSAC. PSAC has offered to allow members of CAPE to take part in their training in December last year. There were some people who are here this evening who took part in the Alliance Union School. Very soon there will be training on communications, which has been opened up to us as well, and that's given by the Alliance. Now, the vitality created by our desire, rather, to give more autonomy to locals is also being felt. I'm thinking specifically of the local that was created by the merger, by what people have done at various departments. In some of these departments, people were very hesitant to get involved in the union movement because of reasons which I'm sure you're aware of. Now, this new local is very dynamic, and based on their momentum, they've created manual question sheet on overtime. In many departments, overtime, as you know, is something that people aren't expected to be paid for. Now, our committees are very, very active, be it the Education Committee, the Youth Committee, which is putting forward some very exciting initiatives. We heard about the new progressive dues structure that was put forward by them. Unfortunately, it was rejected by members, but I think this was because of the goal was misunderstood. There's also a new committee on health and well-being at work, which is dealing with issues such as mental health, which is a new emerging topic, as you know. We've met with members of Parliament to raise awareness on classification, but more specifically, and I've spent a lot of time on this over the past year, on the issue of the Translation Bureau. I'd like to tell you now that I'm heartened to see the diversity of opinions among our members. Since I've been president, we have polled our members several times.
Early 2015, February, March, we consulted the members, and at that time, you will remember, we were still under a Conservative government, and we consulted our members about preparedness to strike. And I think there had always been an assumption that, you know what, CAPE members, they're economists, statisticians, they're small c Conservative people, they'll never vote for a strike, they'll never support it. And guess what? Much to everybody's surprise, including people who had worked at CAPE for years and years and years and never saw the variety, well, we had a slim majority of people actually ready to engage in job action. And that came as a surprise for many, and that came even as a surprise for me, who had evolved professionally in a department that was relatively progressive. So where I could see that there was this progressive fringe of CAPE members, of ECs, having been the president of the local at CEDA, then DFAT-D, and then Global Affairs, whatever, worked the same place all my career. Dans le rapport
Well, in the report by the Bylaws Committee, there's a vision of the union based on its community and which is designed to expand its role. This is a recent consultation that we did of the members, which reveals that the members don't all think the same way. So really, we have to continue to work together. We have to continue to debate. We have to continue to commit to political debate, or not to commit to political debate. We have to have a debate about it.
Community and making our voice heard during important societal debates also helps us better represent you, both as employees of the public service and as citizens. From this point forward, we will be participating in the Joint Task Force on Mental Health and the Technical Committee there. Our participation with other unions will have an impact on the measures that departments and agencies will put in place to respect the new national standard on psychological health in the workplace. And I'm sure that all of your departments, because there's a direction coming from above, are all working on those mental health strategies or action plans or whatever. And when you do have an active local, you can actually channel and funnel concerns of your members through those channels. We've also increased our efforts to participate in labor management consultation. And we take advantage of these platforms to relay your concerns, which are often shared by your colleagues in other unions. We understand the unique nature of your work, and which makes us great conduits at these committees when your concerns are likewise unique. And I think that also focuses the fact that a labor relations officer, as great as they are, and we have a fabulous team of labor relations officers, a couple are here behind, they are really great technical, they have great technical knowledge of labor relations, and you absolutely need them. But when you go to the labor management consultation and you have no local representative, it doesn't add, you don't have the richness of the internal perspective. When I was the CEDA president, I had to fight with CAPE to be allowed to sit at the Labor Management Consultative Committee as an observer. That's not the kind of model of unionism that I want to push for. So similarly, we didn't hesitate to intervene when it came to the Translation Bureau. And what has been going on there is purely unacceptable. The TR colleagues in the room have gone through really difficult years, like several years in a row, of cutbacks, of changes to the way they work, of pressures on producing and producing more and more, and being insulted by basically saying, well, you know what, we'll just subcontract your work and it'll be good. And at the pure lack of recognition that the Translation Bureau is a jewel, an internationally renowned jewel, and it's been shred into garbage, not garbage maybe, but it's been destroyed bit by bit. And we need to stand for linguistic duality in Canada, quality translation, interpretation, and terminology. And I stand strong to continue advocating for the Translation Bureau and for our TR members. The recommendations that were adopted unanimously by the Standing Committee of the House of Commons on Official Languages were really great. We're all going in the right direction. We're following what CAPE positions had been, and the government's response was appalling. So we must continue to meet with members of parliaments and ministers to make our voice heard, and we're meeting with allies. Finally, and definitely not the least of which, Phoenix is a terrible saga that all our labor relations officers have piles and piles and piles of cases that they're trying to deal with, both through informal channels and also sometimes through grievances. So we are at times able to find solutions by reaching out to the pay teams in departments, using the local officers' contacts as well. But again, what will be our best chance of success is jointly working with other unions and keeping a close relationship with all the unions that have a closer connection, like, of course, PSAC, because it's their members that are in Miramichi. They've been dialoguing with PSPC and have been pushing them for a long time. They are closer to the action than we are. Les négociations collectives.
Now, collective bargaining and CAPE activities. Claude Poirier will be talking to this further in a couple of seconds. We're not very pleased to see bargaining go on so long. It's been going on for a year. The Liberals were elected a year ago, and it's still going on. We share the frustration of all bargaining agents who feel like we do. We're hearing bits and pieces which are encouraging, of course, but nothing is really moving forward concretely, so we shouldn't be too happy. At the start of this government's mandate, well, we really expected it to come to the table with a new mandate. And it was only very recently that we, after a marathon of bargaining at the Alliance, that we've started to see some green shoots. Things are starting to change. I'm very proud of the work that we've done over the past year, and those working on the NEC, on our committees, the members and our staff know that this was done despite some ambient hostility. But despite what some of you might think, I'm not a one-woman show as president. I'd like to invite a couple of people to come and talk very quickly about the work that the committees are doing. We'll start with Doug.
We'll have Doug, who will speak for about a minute and a half to tell us about what's been cooking at the Young Members Committee. So, Doug, come on up. Yeah.
Hello. Oh, a little too close. Hi, everybody. I'm Doug. I'm co-chair of the Young Members Committee here at CAPE. We've been working on a variety of initiatives over the last year, but the one that's taken up the bulk of our time has been a consultation on the millennials in the public service. So this initiative was started about 6 months ago. There was a lot of discussion at the time coming from the Treasury Board President, the Clerk of the Privy Council, as well as the Prime Minister's Advisory Committee on the Public Service. And they were talking about, the fact that young people were underrepresented in government compared to labor force participants, and that the average age of entry was 37, which is quite high. Which is old. I'm not saying that word. Just higher than you'd expect, we'll say that. So a lot of them were discussing and emphasizing the need to attract and maintain young talent in the public sector. And at the time, there was numerous groups that were coming out and chiming in, a lot of right-wing think tanks that were talking about how government needs to be modified and all that sort of thing. And we saw that there was a real need to have young people speak for themselves. And so what we did was we connected with our colleagues at PSAC and PIPS, and we organized a Public Service Inter-Union Youth Caucus event, which was a consultation with as many young people as we could possibly get in one room. And it took off. We had 160 young people who came to our consultation event, and we had a number of different table discussions on entry, advancement, rights, benefits, and working conditions, diversity and official languages, all those things. And we've been going through an extensive feedback and revision process, collecting all those comments together, doing what ECs do best, which is, doing consultations, analyzing data, compiling reports, presenting findings. So we've been putting together quite a report with a number of key recommendations that we will be sharing very, very shortly. And we are working on having an official launch party where the report will be released, as well as the recommendations, and that's coming up in the next couple weeks. It looks like it's going to be probably about December 7th date, so that's probably when it's going to happen, but yet to be determined. We'll send out lots of communications when we know best. And then, as that's winding down, we're looking at what to do next. So, yeah, anyways, I could talk forever, but that's the main things.
Thank you so much, Doug.
Yeah.
Thanks. Jessica Squires is the chair of the Mobilization and Job Action Committee, as well as a prominent member of the Constitution and Bylaws Committee.
Prominent? Not prominent.
She does a lot of work.
Yeah. I just wanted to briefly share a couple things. The Mobilization Committee was crucial, especially in the year leading up to the change in government. We were able to show that CAPE was not going to be a weak link during the current round of collective bargaining. The truth is that any union can be a weak link. It's not a function of any particular thing. There are all kinds of different causes for that, but it's important that it was important for us to show that we were going to be strong and united with the rest of the public service in fighting against the regressive changes to sick leave that were proposed. We did weekly rallies at the PMO. Since the election, the focus of the committee has become more focused on supporting the bargaining team and making sure that they feel supported at the table, and making sure that that members feel supported by the bargaining team. So the idea is to have a reciprocal kind of support, and that is also important to inter-union solidarity, because even though we're now doing a binding conciliation approach in bargaining, it's still important for the bargaining team to have the backing of the membership. So that's what we've been doing. And the activities that have been happening at places like Tunney's Pasture and other workplaces in the National Capital Region to get signatures on posters that can then be put up in the national office that are a clear demonstration of support to the bargaining team when they go in for the bargaining sessions. So that campaign is ongoing. If people want to participate, they can communicate with the national office. The Constitution and Bylaws Committee, briefly, I think it's an example of a member-driven process. As you heard, the candidates all had ideas about what could be changed. The NEC has ideas about what can be changed. I have ideas about what can be changed. But what's actually important is that the Constitution and bylaws need to reflect the members, not only where they are right now, but where they want us to go and where they want us to end up. And so that means that it will take a while, because we want to do it properly and we want to do it right. The committee is hoping to fast track some clear issues before the end of next year. We'll see if that's possible. But in the meantime, there has already been a survey that showed that a good chunk of people do want to see at least some changes, that want to see us expand our foundations a little bit. We aren't clear yet exactly how the membership want to see that happen, how it should be expressed, and that's why we're now getting ready to do focus groups. So there will be more consultation, and we're working hard on making sure that you are heard in that process.
Great. Thank you, Jessica. I just want to note that the MJAC also supported the demo that was held on Halloween about Haunted by Phoenix. And this is another great example where joint action is really needed. Neil, you're up next. So Neil is the chair of the Education Committee.
Alors, merci Emmanuel.
Thank you, Emmanuel. I will speak very briefly about our initiative to launch the training.
This is an initiative that got off the ground earlier in the year, and essentially it's a learning series where we invite speakers to come in and talk about different topics that can really encourage us to engage more thoroughly in the labor movement, make us better members of the labor community. We're going to hear from the CLC, Mr. Donald Lafleur, I believe, later this evening. So that's great. That's something I think that actually comes out of this initiative. And the other core aspect of this is really to develop capacity around policy issues that we can put forward in the interest of all Canadians. So universal policy. It's not something that we're really allowed to talk about very much at the office anymore these days. We've taken a much more sort of segmented approach to policy issues. And the purpose of this is really to redevelop that capacity and to sort of have a safe space where we can talk about this as a union, as union members, as citizens. So we've covered a number of issues over the past several months. We've looked at providing fearless advice to our employer. We've looked at pensions, and you'll see that later tonight. There's a resolution that's going to be put forward against two-tier pensions. That's something that was mentioned during the candidates' debate. We covered joining the labor movement. We had a guest speaker presenting an alternative budget for the federal government from the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. And we've also looked at Aboriginal justice issues in the NCR. Another important thing to note about this, I'm very proud to say, l'initiative est entièrement.
The initiative is totally based on the idea of solidarity.
It's launched in collaboration with our colleagues in PSAC. They've been hosting sessions as we have as well. And maybe I'll just end by saying that the next session is coming up at the end of the month. It's November 29th. That's going to be on climate change, 1 million jobs. I was going to say 1,000 jobs. If that was the case, we'd be in big trouble, or at least the folks behind the LEAP manifesto would be. So if you're interested in attending that, check out the website. You can find all the information if you want to register for it beforehand. And the speaker is going to be from the Council of Canadians. Next year, we'll be continuing the initiative, and topics will be lined up for that. And we'll engage our members in terms of interests going forward, as well as the members of PSAC. Thank you.
Merci, Neil.
Thank you, Neil. On a travaillé.
J'ai vraiment très hâte que
I'm really anxious that every one of you think about how he or she can get involved. It could be something very minor, giving 1 hour to review the bylaws, the locals' bylaws. Maybe it could be participate in a training activity. It could be we will be launching. I hope at least we're talking about launching a call for papers.
thinking on the new catchphrases or concepts in public policy. Deliverology is top of mind for many of us. So can we have a safe space to analyze and think critically about these concepts? I have no doubt that we can collectively succeed in making CAPE a strong, active, and democratic union that is relevant for its members. J'ai vraiment très hâte que vous participiez.
I'm anxious for you to take part in the consultation with on the review of Constitution and bylaws, because that document should reflect members, and a union is nothing without its members, its membership. So, and this is you. I will also, after the question period, I will invite Donald Lafleur, our colleague, to talk about one of the projects that we want to have this year, promote the idea that CAPE joined the big union movement, the great union family, by becoming a member of CLC, of the Canadian Labour Congress. We were not yet a member of it. So we want to take the time to discuss it, see the pros and cons, and I don't see many things against it, but this is my personal vision. I think we are winners if we are solidarity